translate the Greek word Pascha, that means Pesach, they translated it into Easter in Acts 12:4, which has grossly affected millions of people who will not use or believe any other translation, as they believe that this translation is the one that was received directly from God. Okay? They say it's called the Textus Receptus, was the text that was used to bring out the New Testament of the King James Bible.
By 70 scholars and
By a room full of scholars over a 6-month period of time. And
you can't get two people to agree on something, let alone.
and you had to, there was 18, and I don't have them listed, but there were 18 conditions that King James put out there that had to be met in order for him to authorize this version, which he never actually authorized in the end. One of those was that the name Jacob, for the Epistle of Jacob, and any time the name Jacob was found in Scripture, would be changed to James, because he felt he needed to have his name in the Bible. The thing about Textus Receptus
all the same.
is that it came from something called the Byzantine text. The Byzantine text was a work that was authorized and supervised by Constantine. So we can get an idea of where that text went, in what direction that text went. So the writers of the King James Bible went as far as to translate the Greek word Pascha into Easter. It's affected millions of people. To this day, Baptists will not use anything but the King James Bible. The seminary that I went to, you couldn't turn in a paper unless it was based on the King James Bible. And fortunately, I didn't go there for long, but I felt guilty having to put down answers I didn't agree with in order to get a passing grade, so that's a terrible thing. But anyway, so again, we're faced with the issue of the Dark Ages, which withheld this information from the people, allowing it to become cemented in the Christian faith. Now, leprosy, we say leprosy is not a simple disease of the exterior flesh. It's not just a skin disease. This is a disease that eats away the internal organs, even if you hide the outside. Okay? Leprosy is used in Torah to pronounce sin. And the thing was, back in Torah, if they spotted a spot on the outside, they threw it outside the camp. It was during this period that they would spot it out the outside and welcome it into the house and nurture it and give it more leprosy pills so that it really started to cause a really bad disease. So the Reformation had a chance to make things right, but just like they did with Sabbath and the Sunday debate, they didn't change anything. So let's consider the words of Yahweh Elohim spoken by Moses here in Devarim 12, which is 28 through 31. Moses is recapping the Torah. And he says, "Observe and hear all the words which I command you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever, when you do that which is good and right in the eyes of Yahweh Elohecha," that is, your Elohim. It's an individual thing. "When Yahweh Elohecha shall cut off the nations from before you, where you go in to dispossess them, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land. Take heed to yourself that you be not ensnared to follow them after that they are destroyed from before you." and that you inquire not after their deities, saying, how do these nations serve their deities? Even so will I do likewise. Saying, don't fall into a trap of wondering how they did things and then end up doing things the way they did it. It's amazing that they didn't pay any attention to this around the 4th century. You shall not do so unto Yahweh Elohecha. Now that's an interesting comment. You shall not do so unto Yahweh Elohecha. Don't do this to Yahweh Elohim. This is a personal assault on him. For every abomination to Yahweh which he hates have they done unto their deity. For even their sons and their daughters do they burn in the fire to their deities. And he's talking about the sacrificing of the children to the deity Moloch. So how is it that Elohim says that adopting pagan ideas is an abomination, yet he is worshipped according to it? So let's consider his words to Jeremiah in Jeremiah chapter 10. It says, thus says Yahweh, learn not the way of the nations, and be not in awe of the signs of the heavens, for the nations are in awe of them. He says, don't be like the nations. Don't wonder at the things of the heavens, because the nations wonder at them. So not only are we to not get involved with pagan concepts, but not to be drawn into the worship of the things in the heavens, say like the sun, for instance. Again, we go back to what Master Yahshua said to the Samaritan woman. He told her, you worship what you don't understand. Then he went on to say, the Father is seeking those worshipers who will worship him in spirit and in truth. And this is a personal note. What I've observed over the years is that when people are confronted with the truths found in Torah, their emotions will not allow them to see clearly, and because of this, they choose to hold on to a lie. When it comes to holidays, people shut down. Their relationship with Elohim goes out the door. It's like, I don't care. We'll talk more about this next week. We're going to talk about Saturnalia. But we're going to see the effect it had on the Roman civil culture, which was crazy. So this is something that emotions get involved. But doing this is to blaspheme the Spirit of Yahweh, which, according to Yahshua, cannot be forgiven. And this is calling what is evil good and what is good evil. As I mentioned earlier, Yahweh does not change. He doesn't change his mind, and he warns us very clearly not to be seduced by falsehoods. In talking to the prophet Malachi, here in Malachi chapter 3, he says this at verse 5 and 6. It says, and I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against the false swearers, and against those who oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear me not, says Yahweh of hosts. To go against Torah is a form of witchcraft. Okay? And that's not a new teaching. That's a teaching that's been around for a long time. To go against Torah is a type of witchcraft. For I, Yahweh, change not, and you, O sons of Jacob, are not consumed. Because I don't change. And be glad that I don't change. Because of it, you're not destroyed. Why are we not consumed? Because the blood of Yahshua allowed for teshuvah to be made. It is because of this that the words of Yahweh to Solomon hold true. And this is from 2 Chronicles, starting in verse 13, that says, if I shut up heaven and there be no rain, or if I command the locust to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people. I do all these bad things because you are disobedient. If my people upon whom my name is called shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their evil ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land. So if we find ourselves worshiping something or some way that goes contrary to the word of Yahweh Elohim, we can make teshuvah and begin walking as we should. If we wish to walk with Yahweh Elohim, then we must take the example of Yahshua, who was able to stand on Scripture when he contended with Satan in the wilderness, and not be like Isha, who was separated from Ish, the woman, that allowed herself to be totally deceived and subdued by the subtlety of the serpent. And this is something that we really, really need to keep in mind, that scripture out of Bereshit, that it says the serpent was the most subtle of all the other creatures, because the subtlety of a lie is a very convincing argument, and it tugs at your heartstrings, and it makes it very difficult to step away from it once it's got you ensnared. So the question is, will you stand on the rock or will you sink in the sand? And this is a look at one of the sun festivals, Easter. And there's a whole lot more information than just what's on this page. This is kind of a chronological, real quick look at what this holiday is and where it came from. And ultimately the question is, do you really want to continue with it? And anyway, any questions on that? Dive right in there.
I saw another translation on this, if my people does, and it said, who call upon my name, rather than,
Yeah, who
or
calls
call
on?
by my name.
Yeah. So, is calls upon the name is literally what the translation is. Calls by the name is kind of a, and I think, yeah, I think that's what we studied when we studied this last Hanukkah, that we, that call upon my name, not who are called by my name.
Because Christians aren't called by his name.
On Passover, can you go over the days again? It starts on Wednesday. He was crucified on Wednesday.
Yeah, back in 3 CE, okay, the 14th of Abib doesn't always fall on a Wednesday. In fact, this last go-around, it fell on what, Sunday? So, it doesn't always fall on that.
Okay.
But with Yahshua, Passover, when they would kill the lamb, fell on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And it was on Wednesday that he was put to death. Wednesday night, he was taken down. He stayed in the grave Wednesday night, Thursday night. Friday night was Shabbat, so naturally he's not going to break the commandment of Elohim and raise on Friday night, which would last until Saturday night, where Saturday night is when he would have rose to be up and at 'em by Sunday morning. And this is where he was in Sheol, and we're taught that, well, he went down to Hale and he got the keys and all this stuff, and so, but anybody else?
So where did they get the 3 days?
Well, 3
And then
days,
it was
3 nights,
Just the 3 nights.
Okay.
3 nights. Wednesday night,
Thursday.
Thursday night,
and
Friday night.
Okay.
Saturday.
Okay. And
Okay.
Saturday night would have been the start of the new day. So
Cause he both passed at dark and was taken down.
yep. So
The body was.
but anything else? grooviness is achieved, or there was Ed's lips were quivering.